The forest remembers everyone you've lost. And when you weep, it brings them back, but they're not the same. My name is Amara, and I learned this truth the hard way. Our village sat at the edge of the Whispering Woods, a place older than memory itself. The elders told us stories about it since we were children. They said the trees there grew from the tears of the first ancestors. They said spirits walked between the roots at night. They said many things. But the one rule they repeated most often was this: never cry in that forest. I was 16 when my mother died. Fever took her during the dry season, slow and cruel. I watched her fade like smoke until there was nothing left but silence in our hut. My father tried to be strong. My younger brother stopped speaking altogether. And me? I carried my grief like stones in my chest. 3 days after we buried her, I couldn't breathe anymore. The weight of it crushed me. I needed to be alone, away from my father's hollow eyes and my brother's empty stare. So I walked. My feet carried me without thinking, past the compound walls, past the last huts, toward the tree line. I didn't plan to enter the Whispering Woods, but grief has no sense of direction. The moment I crossed into the shade of those ancient trees, the air changed. It became thick, heavy with the smell of old earth and something else. Something I couldn't name. The sounds of the village disappeared behind me. No birds sang here. No insects buzzed. Just silence, deep and complete. I walked until I found a clearing where sunlight broke through the canopy in golden streams. I sat against a tree trunk, pulled my knees to my chest, and finally let myself break. I cried like I'd been holding back a river. Tears poured from me, hot and endless. I sobbed until my throat burned and my chest ached. I cried for my mother's laugh, for the way she braided my hair, for the songs she hummed while cooking, for every moment I'd never have with her again. And that's when I heard it. A voice. Soft and familiar. Amara. I froze. My blood turned to ice. Amara, my daughter. Why are you crying? I looked up slowly. My vision blurred with tears, but I could make out a shape emerging from between the trees. A woman. Walking toward me with slow, careful steps. She wore my mother's wrapper. She had my mother's face. She smiled my mother's smile. Mama? The word fell from my lips before I could stop it. She came closer. Her feet made no sound on the forest floor. I've missed you so much, my child. Come, let me hold you. Everything in me wanted to run to her, to feel her arms around me again, to hear her heart beat like I did when I was small. But something held me back. Something felt wrong. Her eyes. They were my mother's eyes, but they were empty, like looking into a well with no bottom. You're dead, I whispered. She tilted her head. Does it matter? I'm here now. I came because you called me. Your tears brought me back. I scrambled to my feet, my heart hammering. I didn't call anyone, but you did. Another voice spoke from behind me. I spun around. My uncle stood there, the one who drowned in the river when I was 8. Water dripped from his clothes, pooling at his feet. We all heard you crying, he said. His voice sounded hollow, like wind through a clay pot. We all came. More figures stepped out from the shadows between the trees. My grandmother, who died when I was born. My cousin, who never woke from sleep sickness. My friend who fell from a tree 3 rainy seasons ago. People I'd lost, people I'd mourned, people whose faces I carried in my memory. They all looked at me with those same empty eyes. Come with us, Amara. My mother extended her hand. You don't have to be sad anymore. Come home. Home. I backed away slowly. Where? She gestured deeper into the forest. Where we all go. Where there's no pain, no loss, just peace. The others moved closer, forming a circle around me. Their movements were too smooth, too synchronized, like they were all controlled by the same invisible thread. I know you miss us, my grandmother said in a voice I'd never heard in life. We miss you too. Let us take away your grief, my uncle added. Let us take away everything, my cousin finished. They reached for me. Dozens of hands, stretching toward my face, my arms, my chest. And I understood then what they really wanted. Not to comfort me, not to bring me peace. They wanted to consume my grief. And they would eat me whole to get it. If you're caught up in this tale, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you want to hear more stories like this, ones that will keep you up at night wondering about the old ways and the spirits that never left, then subscribe and turn on notifications. These stories need to be told. These warnings need to be heard. I ran. Branches tore at my clothes and skin as I crashed through the undergrowth. Behind me, I heard them following. Not running. Walking. Always walking at that same steady pace, but somehow keeping up no matter how fast I moved. Amara, come back. My mother's voice called out, but it was wrong now. Too loud. Too many voices layered underneath it. We only want to help you. I didn't look back. I couldn't. My grandmother had told me once, before she passed, that if you look a grief eater in the eyes, you start to forget why you're running. You start to think maybe going with them wouldn't be so bad. The forest seemed to stretch forever. Every tree looked the same. Every shadow held a reaching hand. I was lost, completely turned around, my lungs screaming for air. Then I saw light ahead. Not sunlight. Firelight. I burst into another clearing and stopped so hard I nearly fell. An old woman sat by a small fire, grinding something in a wooden bowl. She didn't look up at my arrival. Didn't seem surprised at all. Sit down, child. Her voice was rough like dried leaves. Before they catch you. I glanced back. The figures had stopped at the edge of the clearing, swaying slightly but not entering. My mother's face twisted with something that might have been anger or hunger. Hard to tell which. Why did they stop? I gasped, collapsing near the fire. Fire and truth. The old woman kept grinding. Grief eaters can't cross where both burn bright. What are they? Exactly what you think. Spirits that feed on sorrow. They wear the faces of the dead to draw you in. Been doing it since the first person wept in these woods. She finally looked at me with eyes sharp as broken glass. You were warned, weren't you? Never cry in the forest. Shame burned through me. I forgot. I needed. You needed to grieve. I know. Her expression softened slightly. But grief is powerful medicine. Too powerful for careless handling. You spilled it on sacred ground, and sacred ground has old hungers. The figures at the clearing's edge began to multiply. More faces I recognized. Some I'd forgotten I'd lost. A baby sister who died before she could walk. A dog I'd loved as a child. A teacher who succumbed to bad water. The grief eaters took any shape, any memory, if it meant they could feed. How do I get out? I asked. The old woman handed me a small pouch. Burn this at your feet. Walk straight through them. Don't stop. Don't look at their faces. And most important, don't cry. Not one more tear. They're already full of your sorrow. Give them any more, and they'll have strength enough to take your body as well as your grief. What happens if they take my body? She met my eyes with a look that made my stomach drop. You become like them. A grief eater yourself. Wearing your own face, calling to others who weep in the forest. Forever hungry. Forever remembering what you were but unable to be it. My hands shook as I took the pouch. Why are you helping me? Because I cried here once too. She pulled back her head wrap. Beneath it, her scalp bore strange markings, like burned scars in the shape of tears. I was lucky. Someone helped me, just like I'm helping you. That's how this works. Those who escape must stay to guide others. It's the bargain for our freedom. You live here? In the forest? Someone has to keep the fires burning. She nodded toward the clearing's edge where the grief eaters waited with infinite patience. Now go, before full dark comes. They get stronger when the sun goes down. I stood on trembling legs. The pouch felt hot in my palm. One more thing, the old woman said. When you get home, cry all you need to. Scream if you want. Break things. Let the grief move through you like water through stone. Just do it where the earth is common and the spirits are kind. Grief isn't your enemy. It's just proof you loved, but feeding it to the wrong things. She gestured at the waiting figures. That's how you lose yourself. I opened the pouch and dropped the contents at my feet. Red powder, smelling of pepper and smoke. Flames erupted, dancing in a circle around me. The grief eaters hissed, their forms flickering like shadows in wind. I took a breath and walked forward. The flames moved with me, a circle of protection. The grief eaters parted reluctantly, reaching through the fire with hands that dissipated into smoke when they got too close. Amara, my mother's voice again, pleading now. Please, don't leave me here. Don't leave us. I squeezed my eyes shut but kept walking. My real mother wouldn't beg like that. Wouldn't try to trap me. We're so cold, Amara. My uncle's dripping voice. So hungry. Just one touch. My cousin. One hug. That's all we want. I bit my lip hard enough to taste blood. No tears. I couldn't give them tears. You're killing us. My mother screamed, and the voice fractured into 1,000 shrieking tones. Ungrateful child. We came for you. We answered your call. The fire around me blazed brighter. I walked faster, and then I was through. The forest spat me out at its edge like bad fruit. I stumbled into the familiar red dust of the path near my village. Behind me, the trees stood silent and still, innocent as any other forest. But I could still see them in the shadows between the trunks. All those faces, watching, waiting for the next person who would forget the warning, who would cry where grief eaters could taste the salt. I ran home. My father was standing outside our hut, frantic with worry as night began to fall. Where were you? He grabbed my shoulders, looking me over for injuries. I searched everywhere. The forest. The words came out hoarse. I went into the whispering woods. His face went pale. He pulled me inside quickly and built up the fire until it roared. Then he held me while I told him everything. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Your mother, he finally said, told me once that her grandmother was helped by an old woman in that forest. She said the woman had marks on her head like tears made of fire. He looked at me with glistening eyes. I always thought it was just a story. We cried together that night. Me and my father and my silent brother, who finally started sobbing after days of holding it in. We cried in our hut, by our fire, on common ground where the only spirits who heard us were the gentle ones. The ancestors who actually loved us. Not the things that wore their faces in the hungry dark. I go to my mother's grave now when I need to talk to her. I bring flowers and pour water on the red earth. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I laugh, remembering her jokes. Sometimes I just sit there, letting the grief move through me like the old woman said. Like water through stone. Slowly shaping me into something new but not breaking me apart. And I never, ever go back into the whispering woods. But sometimes, on still nights when the air is heavy, I hear crying in the distance. Someone who wandered too far in their sorrow. Someone who forgot the warning. And I think about the old woman, tending her fire, waiting to help if she can. Waiting to watch if she can't. The forest remembers everyone you've lost. And it will use that memory against you if you give it the chance. So if you ever find yourself in a sacred place where the trees are older than kingdoms and the ground feels different beneath your feet, remember this: your grief is yours alone. Don't spill it where hungry things can drink. Don't cry where the forest can taste your tears. Because some things that answer your pain don't want to heal it. They want to eat it. And they'll wear the faces of everyone you've ever loved to get close enough to feed.